I should have known something was wrong when my sister Olivia showed up to our monthly family dinner dressed like she was attending a board meeting rather than Mom's casual lasagna night. But then again, everything about Olivia had always been calculated, right down to her perfectly timed entrance, exactly 7 minutes late. Madison. She air-kissed my cheeks, her signature Channel No. 5 perfume overwhelming my senses. You look comfortable. Her eyes flicked over my simple sweater and jeans with barely concealed judgment. I was already regretting coming. These family dinners had become increasingly tense since Olivia's divorce from James 3 years ago, but Mom insisted on maintaining the tradition. Family is all we have, she'd say, conveniently forgetting how Olivia had practically disappeared after marrying James, only to resurface when their marriage imploded. Now here we were, seated around Mom's antique dining table, Mom fussing with the place settings, Dad pretending to be absorbed in his wine glass, me trying to become invisible, and Olivia practically vibrating with merely contained energy. Her children, Tyler, 8, and Lily, 6, were notably absent. They're with their nanny, Olivia explained breezily. I needed them out of the way for this discussion. That should have been my second warning sign. Olivia never missed an opportunity to parade her children around when it suited her image as a devoted mother. Actually, she continued, placing her fork down with theatrical precision, I have something important to discuss with everyone. Mom immediately perked up. Dad finally looked up from his wine. I've been doing a lot of thinking about the children's future, Olivia said, her voice taking on that practiced sincerity she used in her corporate lawyer presentations, about making sure they're protected, no matter what happens. Are you sick? Mom's hand flew to her chest, always ready for drama. No, nothing like that. Olivia laughed, though something flickered in her eyes. But as a single mother, I need to be practical, which is why I've decided to make Madison the children's legal guardian in case anything happens to me. The silence that followed was deafening. I sat there, fork suspended halfway to my mouth, lasagna forgotten. That's wonderful, Mom exclaimed, always quick to follow Olivia's lead. Madison would be perfect. She works from home as a children's book illustrator. She has that big house. The house you helped me buy. I couldn't help adding, remembering how they'd insisted I needed the 4-bedroom Victorian for my future family. A future that seemed increasingly unlikely at 34 and single. Exactly. Olivia beamed. Everything's already set up. I just need you to sign some papers. My lawyer drew them up. She pulled a thick envelope from her designer handbag and slid it across the table like it contained nothing more important than takeout menus. Now, I asked, not reaching for it. No time like the present. Olivia's smile remained fixed, but her eyes hardened slightly. Unless you don't want to be there for my children. And there it was. The guilt trip, the manipulation, the careful framing that would make any resistance seem selfish and cruel. Of course, she wants to be there for the kids. Dad spoke up, his first real contribution to the conversation. Right, Madison? I looked at the envelope, then at my sister's expectant face, then at our parents' hopeful expressions. I'll need to review these with my lawyer first. Olivia's smile flickered. Don't you trust me? Trust isn't about legal documents, I said carefully. It's about understanding what I'm agreeing to. They're just standard guardianship papers, Olivia insisted. Nothing complicated. But something in her too quick response made my stomach tighten. I'd seen this before, Olivia's simple requests that turned out to be elaborate traps. I'll have my lawyer look them over tomorrow, I said firmly. The rest of dinner was tense, with Olivia checking her phone every few minutes and Mom trying desperately to maintain conversation. I left early, citing work deadlines. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about the whole situation felt wrong. Olivia had never shown any particular faith in my abilities before, especially regarding her children. She'd made it clear multiple times that my lifestyle, freelance work, modest success, single status, was something of a disappointment to her. So why now? Why me? The call came at 3 a.m., jolting me awake. James's name flashed on my screen. I hadn't heard from my former brother-in-law since the divorce, though I'd always liked him. He'd been good for Olivia, grounding her materialistic tendencies with his more practical nature, until she decided he was holding her back from her true potential. Madison? His voice was urgent. Did Olivia ask you about becoming the kid's guardian today? I sat up, suddenly wide awake. How did you know? Because she tried to get me to sign away my parental rights last week. He sounded exhausted. Did she mention the life insurance policy? What life insurance policy? The $2 million one she took out 3 months ago. There was a bitter laugh. With you as guardian, she'd have complete control over how that money was spent for the kids, even though I'm their father and should be their guardian if anything happened to her. My blood ran cold. James, what's really going on? I've been investigating, he said. After she tried to get me to sign those papers, something felt off. Madison, Olivia's in trouble. Big trouble. The kind that involves offshore accounts and missing client funds. The room seemed to spin. What are you saying? I'm saying your sister is setting up a contingency plan. If things go south with this investigation, she wants someone she can control in charge of the money and the kids. Someone who will follow her instructions about where to send funds, no questions asked. And she thinks that person is me? I felt sick. You're the perfect choice in her mind. Family loyalty, financially dependent on your parents, single with no other obligations. Plus, she's always known exactly how to manipulate you. I thought about the envelope sitting on my kitchen counter, about Tyler and Lily, innocent pawns in whatever game their mother was playing. What do we do? First, don't sign anything, James said firmly. I'm meeting with my lawyer tomorrow. Can you come? Bring those papers Olivia gave you. After hanging up, I sat in the darkness, thinking about all the times I'd given in to Olivia's demands for the sake of family peace, about how she'd always used her children as leverage, knowing how much I cared about them despite her efforts to limit our relationship. I thought about Tyler's quiet intelligence, so like James's and Lily's artistic spirit, that Olivia constantly tried to redirect toward more practical pursuits. They deserved better than being used as pawns in their mother's schemes. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Don't forget to sign those papers tomorrow. The kids are so excited about having you as their guardian. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to my office and opened my laptop. Years of illustrating children's books had taught me to notice details, to look for the story behind the story. Now, I started researching, making notes about everything that had seemed off about Olivia lately. The designer clothes that seemed even more expensive than usual, the sudden interest in cryptocurrency, the new friends she never quite introduced properly, the way she'd been pushing Mom and Dad to invest in some amazing opportunity she couldn't quite explain. By sunrise, I had filled several pages with observations and questions. One thing was clear. This wasn't just about guardianship. This was about something much bigger. And my sister was trying to use me and her own children as insurance. I glanced at the envelope on my counter innocent looking, but now feeling more like a ticking bomb. Whatever game Olivia was playing, I refused to be her pawn. More importantly, I refused to let her use her children as collateral damage. The sun was rising as I made coffee and started getting ready for what I knew would be a very long day. My phone buzzed again. Mom, this time. Have you signed the papers yet? Your sister's been calling all morning. I took a deep breath and typed, need to handle some things first, talk later. Then I grabbed the envelope, my notes, and my car keys. It was time to stop being the agreeable little sister and start being the adult those kids needed in their corner. The game was about to change, and for once, I wasn't going to play by Olivia's rules. James's lawyer's office was exactly what you'd expect from someone who specialized in high-stakes family law, all mahogany and leather, radiating expensive competence. Catherine Walsh had the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter just by being in the same room. These aren't just guardianship papers, she said, spreading the documents from Olivia's envelope across her desk. This is an elaborate trust structure. If you had signed these, you would have given your sister complete control over not just the children's future, but any assets connected to their care. James leaned forward, including the life insurance money, especially that. Catherine pointed to a particularly dense paragraph. This clause here, it would give Olivia sole discretion over how any insurance payouts or trust funds are invested or distributed, even if she's temporarily indisposed. Meaning in prison, James said flatly. My head was spinning. How much trouble is she in, exactly? James and Catherine exchanged looks. The SEC is investigating her firm, James finally said. Specifically, her handling of certain international client accounts. We're talking potential fraud in the millions. But she's so careful, I protested weakly. She's always been so controlled. The careful ones are often the worst, Catherine noted. They plan everything, including their exits. These papers? This is her exit strategy. You would be the legal front while she maintained actual control. We need to tell our parents, I said, then immediately doubted myself. Don't we? Not yet, Catherine advised. If Olivia realizes we're onto her, she might accelerate whatever she's planning. First, we need to protect the children. She pulled out a fresh set of documents. James, as their father, you need to file for emergency custody modification. Madison, we need your testimony about yesterday's dinner and any other suspicious behavior you've noticed. The next few hours were a blur of legal terminology and strategy planning. By the time I left Catherine's office, I had a thick folder of my own documents and a growing sense of dread. I hadn't even made it home before Olivia called. Did you sign the papers yet? She asked, skipping any greeting. I'm still reviewing them, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What's to review? It's a simple guardianship agreement. Unless, her voice sharpened. Have you been talking to James? Why would that matter? He's bitter about the divorce, she snapped. He's been trying to undermine me ever since. I thought I could count on my own sister's loyalty. There it was again. The guilt trip, the manipulation. But this time, I heard it clearly for what it was. Loyalty goes both ways, Olivia. When were you going to tell me about the life insurance policy? The silence that followed was telling. Who have you been talking to? Her voice was deadly quiet. Does it matter? The truth was going to come out eventually. You have no idea what you're getting involved in, she hissed. I was trying to protect you, to set you up financially while protecting my children. But if you want to side with James. This isn't about sides, I interrupted. This is about Tyler and Lily. Everything I do is for them, she shouted. Every move, every plan, it's all to secure their future. By committing fraud, by using them as pawns. Another long silence. Who told you? She finally asked, her voice cold. It doesn't matter. What matters is stopping this before it gets worse. She laughed, a harsh sound, nothing like her usual carefully modulated tones. Worse? Oh, Madison, you have no idea what worse looks like. But you're about to find out. She hung up. Within an hour, my parents arrived at my house, both looking grave. Olivia told us everything, Mom said, her voice trembling, about how you and James are trying to take the children away from her. How could you? Did she tell you about the SEC investigation? I asked quietly. About the missing client funds? Their blank looks answered that question. Mom, Dad, sit down. There's something you need to know. I told them everything about the suspicious papers, James's call, what Catherine had discovered. Their faces shifted from disbelief to shock to horror. But she's always been so successful, Mom kept repeating. So responsible. She's also been living beyond even her considerable means, I pointed out. The new car, the designer clothes, that luxury condo, the investment opportunity, Dad said suddenly. She's been pushing us to invest in some new venture. Wanted us to liquidate our retirement accounts. Thank God you haven't, I breathed. My phone buzzed with a text from James. Olivia just picked up the kids from school early, not answering her phone. My blood ran cold. Catherine's words rang in my ears. She might accelerate whatever she's planning. What followed was a nightmare of police calls, emergency court filings, and frantic attempts to locate my sister and her children. The school's security footage showed her loading Tyler and Lily into her Mercedes, both children looking confused but compliant. Hours passed. Night fell. My parents aged years in those hours, their certainties about their perfect eldest daughter crumbling with each new revelation. Then, at midnight, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Tell James if he wants to see his kids again, he'll drop everything. No police, no courts, no investigations. He knows what I mean. I showed the text to Catherine, who immediately contacted the authorities. This changes everything, she said grimly. Now we're dealing with parental kidnapping. But before the police could act, another text came through, this one with a photo. Tyler and Lily, asleep in what looked like a hotel room. A newspaper with today's date was visible in the frame. 24 hours, the text read. Their father knows what to do. James arrived at my house looking haunted. She wants me to sign a statement taking responsibility for the missing funds, he said. To say I orchestrated everything using her accounts. That she was an innocent victim. You can't, I said. They're my children, he replied simply. My parents, still at my house, had been unusually quiet. But now Dad spoke up. The cabin. We all turned to look at him. Your mother's family cabin in Vermont, he continued. Olivia asked for the key last week. Said she might take the kids there for a weekend soon. It was a lead, a thin one, but a lead nonetheless. Catherine immediately contacted the authorities, and within hours, local police were dispatched to check the remote property. All we could do was wait. The hours crept by like years. James paced my living room. Mom clutched her phone, jumping at every notification. Dad stared out the window as if he could somehow see all the way to Vermont. I sat at my desk, looking at my latest children's book illustrations. A story about bravery and doing the right thing, even when it's hard. The irony wasn't lost on me. Finally, at 3 a.m., the call came. They had found them. Olivia had been arrested without incident. The children were safe, scared and confused, but unharmed. The relief was physical, a wave that left us all weak-kneed and tearful. But this wasn't the end. It was barely the beginning. As dawn broke, I watched James drive off to Vermont to collect his children, while my parents grappled with their new reality. Their perfect daughter was facing serious criminal charges. Their grandchildren were traumatized. Their carefully maintained family image was shattered. My phone buzzed one last time. Another text from that unknown number. "You'll regret this. Family is supposed to protect family." I looked at the message for a long moment before typing back. Yes, that's exactly what I did. Then I blocked the number and went to make coffee. There would be hard days ahead, but for now, the children were safe. Sometimes that had to be enough. The sun rose on a world fundamentally changed, but somehow clearer. Sometimes protecting family means protecting them from family. It wasn't the happy ending I'd hoped for, but it was the right ending. The aftermath of Olivia's arrest unfolded like a slow-motion train wreck. Every day brought new revelations, each more devastating than the last. The SEC investigation revealed that she hadn't just misappropriated client funds. She'd built an entire shadow operation, complete with fake investment portfolios and doctored returns. But my focus wasn't on the legal drama. It was on two children whose world had imploded. Tyler and Lily moved in with James full-time, but they spent their afternoons at my house while he was at work. My home office became their safe haven, where Tyler could do his homework in quiet concentration and Lily could explore her artistic side with my art supplies. "Why did Mom try to take us away?" Lily asked one afternoon, her small hands covered in paint as she worked on yet another masterpiece. How do you explain something like that to a 6-year-old? Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices when they're scared, I said carefully. But that doesn't mean they don't love you. Dad says she's in trouble. Tyler spoke up from his math homework. Big trouble. Yes, she is, I agreed. There was no point in lying to them. But that's not your fault or your responsibility. The kids weren't the only ones struggling. Our parents were walking wounded, alternating between denial and devastating clarity. Mom would spend hours looking through old family photos, as if searching for the moment when everything went wrong. Dad threw himself into helping James, perhaps trying to atone for not seeing the signs earlier. 3 weeks after the arrest, Catherine called a family meeting at her office. James brought the kids, who settled into the corner with their tablets while the adults talked. "The prosecutors have offered a plea deal," Catherine explained. "In exchange for full cooperation and restitution, they're offering a reduced sentence." "How reduced?" James asked. 5 years instead of potentially 15. Catherine spread out the documents. But there's a catch. The restitution includes selling all assets, including the condo and any investments. The Children's Trust Fund would be dissolved to repay the victims. "What about the life insurance policy?" I asked. "Canceled. It was purchased with fraudulent funds." I watched Tyler pretend he wasn't listening while Lily drew elaborate patterns on her tablet. They'd already lost so much. "There's something else," Catherine continued. "Olivia is requesting visitation rights." The room went silent except for the soft tapping of Lily's stylus. "Supervised visits only," Catherine clarified quickly. but she wants to maintain contact with the children. James ran a hand through his hair. What do you think? Catherine's professional demeanor softened slightly. Speaking as someone who's handled many cases like this, children need closure, one way or another. Supervised visits might help them process everything better than complete abandonment would. I'll go with them, I offered. If everyone agrees, I can be there during the visits. James looked relieved. The kids trusted me, and I could act as a buffer between them and whatever emotional manipulation Olivia might attempt. The first visit was scheduled for the following weekend at a family counseling center. I arrived early, my stomach in knots. The children were quiet on the drive over, holding hands in the back seat. Olivia looked different in her prison jumpsuit, her perfectly maintained image stripped away. But her eyes were the same, calculating, watching, planning. My babies. She held out her arms, but the children hung back. Hi, Mom, Tyler said formally. Lally half hid behind me. The hour that followed was excruciating. Olivia tried to maintain her usual control, asking about school and activities as if nothing had changed. But the children's responses were guarded, their natural warmth buried under layers of hurt and confusion. I did everything for you, Olivia said at one point, her mask slipping. Everything was to give you a better life. By stealing? Tyler asked suddenly. By lying? Olivia flinched. You don't understand. I understand math, Tyler cut in. I understand that stealing is wrong. Dad taught me that. The visit ended early. In the car afterward, Lily crawled into my lap and cried while Tyler stared out the window, his jaw set in a way that made him look far older than 8. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about patterns, about cycles, about the stories we tell ourselves to justify our actions. I thought about my latest children's book, about how I tried to weave messages of hope and resilience into my illustrations. The next morning, I started a new project, a special book just for Tyler and Lily. The story of 2 young adventurers navigating a world where grown-ups sometimes lost their way, but love and truth always led home. Weeks turned into months. The legal proceedings ground on. Olivia accepted the plea deal, and the reality of her 5-year sentence began to sink in. The condo was sold, the assets liquidated, the careful facade of success dismantled piece by piece. James and I fell into a routine with the kids. He handled the practical stuff, school, doctors, activities, while I provided the emotional support and creative outlet they desperately needed. My house became their second home, filled with art projects and homework sessions and impromptu dance parties when the heaviness got to be too much. Our parents struggled to find their footing in this new reality. Mom finally sought therapy, working through her own patterns of enabling and denial. Dad became more present, making up for lost time with his grandchildren. The supervised visits continued, though they grew less frequent as the children's therapist advised giving them more control over when and how they wanted to see their mother. Sometimes they'd go weeks without wanting to visit. Sometimes they'd ask to go twice in a month. We followed their lead. 6 months after the arrest, I finished the special book I'd been working on. The Truth About Love told the story of a family learning that love sometimes means letting go, that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and that family can be rebuilt in new and stronger ways. When I showed it to the kids, Tyler read it 3 times in one sitting. Lily asked me to paint a mural of the final scene, where the young adventurers build a new home filled with art and laughter, on her bedroom wall at James's house. Are you going to publish it? Tyler asked. No, I told him. This one's just for you too. But the book did inspire something else. With the children's therapist's encouragement, we started a support group for kids with incarcerated parents. Tyler and Lily didn't always participate, but knowing they weren't alone seemed to help. 1 year after everything fell apart, we held a different kind of family dinner. No fancy clothes, no hidden agendas, no perfect facades. Just pizza and board games and honest conversation. I miss Mom sometimes, Lily admitted during a quiet moment. But not the mom from the end. The mom from before, who used to read me stories. That's okay, I told her. You can miss the good parts while still understanding why things had to change. Tyler, setting up the next board game, added, and we have you now. You're like our bonus mom. Bonus Aunt Mom, Lily corrected with a giggle. The title stuck, becoming their special name for me. Not replacing their mother, but adding something new and healing to their lives. That night, after the kids went home with James, I found a drawing Lily had left on my desk. It showed all of us, James, the kids, our parents, and me, surrounded by colorful swirls and hearts. At the bottom, in her careful first-grade handwriting, she'd written, "Sometimes family gets bigger when it breaks." Out of the mouths of babes, as they say. I pinned the drawing to my inspiration board, right next to the family photo taken before everything changed. The contrast between the perfect, posed image and Lily's honest, messy drawing said everything about our journey. Sometimes the best families are the ones we rebuild from the broken pieces, held together with truth and trust instead of appearances and obligations. It wasn't the family story any of us had planned, but it was becoming something real and strong and healing. 3 years into Olivia's sentence, life had found a new rhythm. Tyler was now 11, excelling in both academics and soccer. Lily, at 9, had developed into quite the artist. Her work was regularly featured in school exhibitions. The raw wound of their mother's absence had scarred over, leaving them changed, but stronger. I was there for all of it. Tyler's championship games, Lily's art shows, and parent-teacher conferences where I sat beside James as his official co-parent. My role had evolved far beyond bonus Aunt Mom. I had become an essential part of their support system. The supervised visits with Olivia continued, though they'd settled into a predictable monthly routine. She had changed, too. The prison system's rehabilitation programs and therapy had gradually stripped away her manipulative facades. Whether the change was genuine or another calculated move, only time will tell. "I've been reading your books," she told me during one visit, while the kids showed her their latest school projects. "The ones you've published. They're good. They help kids understand difficult things." It was the first genuine compliment she had ever given me about my work. "That's the goal," I replied carefully. "The one you made for Tyler and Lily. Could I read it sometime?" I glanced at the kids, who were listening while pretending not to. That's up to them. It's their story. Tyler and Lily exchanged looks, that silent communication they developed over the years. Finally, Tyler nodded. "We'll bring it next time." That small moment of agency, of them deciding when and how to share their story, felt significant. Our parents had found their way to healing too. Mom had become an advocate for families affected by white-collar crime, turning her pain into purpose. Dad, now retired, spent his time teaching Tyler chess and attending Lily's art classes as her unofficial assistant. James had started dating again, carefully, and with the children's full involvement in the process. The woman he was seeing, Amanda, was a child psychologist who understood the complexity of our situation. She never tried to replace anyone, just added her own warmth to our expanding family circle. My own life had changed in unexpected ways. The children's book I'd written for Tyler and Lily had inspired a series about families navigating difficult changes. My publisher loved the concept, and the first book was set to release next month. The advance copies had already received positive reviews for handling complex emotional topics in child-appropriate ways. One evening, as we all gathered for our now traditional Friday night pizza and games, I looked around at our assembled family. Tyler was teaching Amanda his latest soccer moves. Lily was showing Dad her new painting technique. Mom and James were deep in discussion about Tyler's upcoming school science fair. The scene was beautifully ordinary, the kind of family moment Olivia had always tried to orchestrate, but never quite achieved. Aunt Madison, Lily tugged at my sleeve. Can we add Amanda to the family wall? The family wall was their idea. A collection of photos showing our journey over the past 3 years. It included everyone, happy moments, difficult moments, all the people who made up our unusual but loving family. Of course, I said, we'll take a new picture tonight. With everyone? She asked, and I knew she meant including the empty space we always left, the space that acknowledged Olivia's absence without letting it overshadow our present. With everyone, I confirmed. Later that night, after the others had gone home, I added the new photo to the wall. Looking at the collection of images, I could trace our journey from broken to healing, from chaos to peace. Olivia's upcoming release in 2 years wouldn't break the new foundation we built. Whatever came next, we would face it together, with honesty and strength. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Thanks for game night. Bonus Mom. Love you. Followed immediately by one from Lily. Check your email. I sent you my new art for your next book. I smiled, remembering the terrifying night 3 years ago when everything fell apart. We had survived, not by pretending the breaks hadn't happened, but by acknowledging them and building something new around them. The last light of day filtered through my window, illuminating the family wall with its collection of moments and memories. Among them was Lily's drawing from that first year, now framed. Sometimes family gets bigger when it breaks. She'd been right, that wise beyond her years child. Family isn't just about blood, or legal documents, or perfect appearances. It's about choosing to show up day after day. It's about holding space for both the joy and the pain. It's about building something real from the pieces life gives you. As I turned off the lights, I caught sight of my reflection in the window, no longer just the agreeable little sister, but someone stronger. Someone who had learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stand firm in the truth, even when it hurts. That truth had cost us the illusion of a perfect family, but it had given us something better, a real one. And that was worth everything.